Did you see what happened last week? Justin Trudeau says he made some big changes around here. Now, don't get too excited. He didn't, for example, axe his carbon tax. He still plans to quadruple it on Canadians. He didn't get his spending under control. He had a mini budget that adds just even more inflationary deficit spending. And he didn't boot out his radical environment minister. Nope, he didn't do any of those things. Instead, he brought in a marketing genius to try to put a new paint job on his flailing NDP-Liberal bloc coalition.
So, if you want to know how to enter into the conversation of social media, think like a young person. That's rule number one. And rule number two is everything happens immediately and everything happens now.
So I was thinking about this all weekend. After 8 years of all his taxes and spending, inflation going out of control, after his scandals and corruption.
Why did you paint your face brown?
Ooh. It was something I shouldn't have done because it hurt. It's not something that you should do.
What does this guy think to do? He doesn't think to change any of that. He just hires a hotshot spin doctor to save his own political hide. And I just want to make clear, I'm not attacking this staffer. He's probably a really great guy and he's probably a talented professional. But what it really shows is all you need to know about Justin Trudeau. Because you think about this in the context of 8 years of his anti-energy and anti-private sector policies, but especially in the bill he announced just before the summer about the just transition. What he actually did there was spend a year and a half developing this legislation that everyone around the world, including the entire government, referred to as the just transition. But as soon as Canadians find out about the just transition, they know that it's about killing 170,000 oil and gas jobs immediately and hurting the jobs of 2.7 million Canadians right across the country. And what did he do at the very last minute? Literally a copy and paste in the document to switch out suddenly all the references to just transition and call it sustainable jobs. So the truth is, the just transition is really about Justin's transition to poverty, to destroy the livelihoods of millions of Canadians because of his radical ideology opposed to oil and gas development.
We can't shut down the oil sands tomorrow. We need to phase them out.
For Justin Trudeau and his NDP-Liberal costly coalition, it's always just only ever about image, about their words, about their feelings, and it's never actually about substance or delivering outcomes or making life better and more affordable for all Canadians.
We like to say people kind, not necessarily mankind, because it's more inclusive.
There we go, exactly.
The reality is that millions of Canadians can see through this guy. But he doesn't think to change what he's doing, he just thinks to change the marketing. But like, imagine this is like a car manufacturer with a car that constantly explodes or has all kinds of problems. Well, they don't just change up the advertising and do a few more glossy ads, they change the car. But of course in Canada, you know, a bunch of us might not have cars and trucks that we can use because Justin Trudeau actually wants to ban them all by 2035, but that's an issue we'll talk about another day. But hold on a second, let's go back to what the just transition is all about and what it's gonna do. It's a woke globalist agenda that's bad for Canada. It's also about central planning from the top down and restructuring Canada's economy. That's what they don't want to admit.
So what's stopping us from making the improvements we have to make in order to avoid catastrophe? Well, the answer, of course, is capitalism. Capitalism requires perpetual economic growth.
All you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. How dare you?
And the worst thing is, these guys keep pretending that it's a bill that actually is going to deliver skills training programs and job training programs and programs that can actually effectively help workers move from one sector or one career to another so that they can continue to provide for their families and for their communities. But the bill doesn't actually do anything like that at all. What it actually does is, classic, sets up government committees with no accountability or transparency to either Canadians or to the House of Commons. That government-appointed committee, that'll all be done secretly and behind closed doors, is going to set up another government-appointed committee that also has no transparency or accountability to either Canadians or to the House of Commons. And then those committees together are going to, get this, issue directions and plans to the Government of Canada every 5 years, a planning cycle any Soviet would be proud of, about how to restructure Canada's economy and redistribute wealth. That's what it's all about. And you can even tell that because every once in a while, the ministers who mean to be talking about energy transition will call it economic transition. That's what they're really after.
Too often when we've seen times of major economic transition, workers get left behind.
You got to know where this just transition idea actually comes from. This probably won't shock you, but of course it was developed at one of these international conferences where all the wealthy establishment, elite mucky mucks, and high carbon hypocrites gather to tell everybody else how to live and what to do. But since that, or in the process of either it being developed or then talked about in the back end, this whole concept got co-opted by radical, ideological extremists. Now look, I know that it sounds like I'm probably exaggerating, but you gotta read the actual documents. It's so obvious when you hear what any of the proponents about the just transition actually say. About a week or so ago, the proof came out of the mouth of Justin Trudeau's Environment Minister himself when he stood up in the House of Commons and proudly declared that he's a socialist.
Mr. Speaker, so I was sitting. I'm a liberal and a proud socialist, Mr. Speaker. I'm a liberal and a proud socialist, Mr. Speaker.
I'm a liberal and a proud socialist, Mr. Speaker. I'm a liberal and a proud socialist, Mr. Speaker.
I mean, this is what we're dealing with here. These are the guys who are in charge of Canada and who are running the economy right now. I think most Canadians know you can't trust Justin Trudeau. And there is not enough lipstick in the world to fix the mess he's made. Prime Minister Trudeau and his NDP-Liberal Bloc costly coalition, you know what? They may have all the fancy spin doctors, but the truth's on our side. And common sense conservatives will elect a government that will turn hurt into hope and bring home jobs, money, and businesses for Canadians everywhere. And as always, thanks for watching. And don't forget to subscribe.